For the past few months, I've been working on the script for my next feature film. The last script I wrote was for my first feature film, Booyah Rage Bomb. Nicholas! And that was 3 years ago. Yeah, a lot's changed since then. I'm older, I'm wiser. Well, maybe I'm just older. But this time around, I wanted to share the whole filmmaking process from initial idea to finished movie. Making a feature film is a massive undertaking. And there are plenty of resources online, but there isn't really a definitive step-by-step guide of really how to do it. Which makes sense because, there's like a million different routes you can go to bring your movie to life. The problem I've seen with the resources that are already out there is a lot of the people have industry connections or crazy gear or budgets, and I don't have any of that. So I wanted to show what it actually looks like to make a feature film on a shoestring budget. And it all starts with screenwriting. So as for the actual writing process, we started out super simple with just a beat sheet. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a roadmap to your whole movie. I actually got this idea from Film Riot. They have a really good video on the 3-act structure, so I will link that in the description. But basically, I'll just run through it really fast. Before I go any further, I want to talk about something that just completely confused me when I started writing. I kept hearing the phrase that characters drive the story. And honestly, yeah, that makes sense to me. You can't have a story without characters, right? But what confused me, it basically felt like two choices. Either I could stick to an outline of a plot idea and have flat, lifeless characters, or I could create amazing characters and have no idea where the story is gonna go. Obviously, those are two extremes, and you gotta kind of go somewhere in the middle. A story needs structure. It needs conflict. It needs direction. But the conflict shouldn't happen just because the plot says it needs to happen, if that makes any sense. Every conflict in your story needs to happen because of a choice that your characters make. Let me say that again. Every conflict in your film needs to happen because of a decision that one of your characters made. Pretty life-changing stuff I'm giving you here. Basically, if random things just keep happening to your character because your plot says that it needs to happen, then your audience isn't going to care because it has nothing to do with your characters, and it just makes no sense because they don't know who your characters are. Most movies follow this pattern. A character starts the story believing something about themselves or about the world, and as the story progresses, those beliefs change to where once the end of the film is reached, they're a completely different person. And once I understood that, outlining became so much easier. Before I even started outlining, I asked myself, who is my character at this moment, and who are they by the end of the movie? Answering those questions first gave the movie an actual purpose. So instead of just writing a bunch of cool events that'll be awesome to film, I was writing a story that actually meant something. So Act 1 is the setup. So this starts with a hook, which is pretty self-explanatory, something that catches your viewer's attention, hooks them immediately, gets them into the story. From then, we have the inciting incident, which is an event that completely disrupts your hero's day-to-day life. And then finally is turning point 1. That is the point when your hero decides to take action. Act 2 is the conflict. So it starts with the rising action, which is just a series of dramatic events that raise tension. After that is the mid-plot point, which is usually a plot twist or a failure that causes your hero to reevaluate. And then finally is turning point 2. This is the aftermath of the mid-plot point where the main character decides to recommit to their journey. And then finally, Act 3 is the resolution. So that starts with the climax, which is basically where everything in the story has been leading to. It's like the peak of the conflict. From there, you have the falling action, when tension starts to be released, but the conflict still isn't fully resolved. And then finally is the resolution, which is obviously when the conflict is resolved and all loose ends and plot points are tied up nice and tidy. And yeah, that's pretty much your 3-act structure. It lays out a really nice outline for your film, and then you can go straight from there to working on the actual script. I think procrastination is the hardest part about making a movie. We have this idea for a movie, we have a passion for filmmaking. Why am I procrastinating? I think the reason is we're scared. You have this idea, but you're so scared of falling short that it's just easier to not write at all. It's easier not to do it, you know? Why take the risk of putting your whole heart into something if it could come across as just not the way you intended, you know? It could be bad. It could be bad. That's a scary thought. Your script could be bad. Your whole movie could be bad. And I think at the root of it, that is why we procrastinate. That's why it's so hard. I mean, especially with filmmaking, you know, it involves so many other people. It involves so much money, thousands of dollars, so much time. I mean, these movies can take years. It's a lot. It'd be a lot easier, like I said, just not to do it. It's a lot of pressure. I just have to keep reminding myself. The biggest thing is just to keep going. Nothing is perfect. No movie I make is going to be perfect. No script I write is going to be perfect. Everything is going to have its flaw, but it's so much better to try than not to try. You learn so much through each experience, through each film you do, through each script you write. Everything is a learning experience, and if you cut yourself short of that, then you're never going to progress. You're just gonna be stuck where you are. It's such a crazy mental game. It's so ridiculous, but I'm here to say that it's normal. Every artist deals with it. The biggest part of just making movies in general is to just finish it. Just see it through. Yeah, just try not to put so much pressure on yourself. Just get the first draft of your film done. It's called a rough draft for a reason. It's supposed to be kind of bad, you know? You're just supposed to get all your ideas out on the paper. Through rewrites, all of the edits, that's where the movie is really made. I would start to write and I would just feel the urge to just do anything else because it's hard, but I just had to tell myself, hey, this is the rough draft. It's not supposed to be good. It's normal to procrastinate. That's all I'm trying to get at here. But keep going. See it through to the finish line. I promise you it's worth it. And I'm gonna get out of the bath now. One of the biggest things I'd recommend is finding writing partners. Everyone brings a unique perspective, and they'll catch things that you didn't even think about. Maybe they'll find a plot hole. Maybe a piece of dialogue feels kind of off. Maybe characters' motivation doesn't make sense in a scene. Having multiple sets of eyes on your script will just make it stronger. And not to mention, it's just so fun to work on something with your friends. I had such a blast writing this script with some of my closest friends. We would hop on a call and we'd be spitballing ideas, and then we would just somehow start talking about the most random thing ever, turn it into a bit, and then we'd be like, oh, okay, that's funny, put it in the script. Another huge bonus to writing with people is that they hold you accountable. A big thing that helped me stay on track was knowing that I had partners working on the same script and wanting to get the next draft out so I could get their eyes on it and get their notes and not leave them waiting. It gave me more of like a good pressure, I guess. So after the 3-act outline, is that what it's called? after the 3-act structure outline. After the basic outline, I forgot what I called it. We went into a timeline. We started like listing scene ideas in order of where they would appear. And yeah, I think it was super helpful because from that point on, we took that timeline and we turned it into scene outlines. Scene outlines are basically no dialogue, but just a rough description of what the scene will entail. Sort of like the timeline, I guess, but the scene outline goes a little more in depth into the scene. Once the scene outline was complete, we just went back through it, tried to see if everything made sense, and then from that point on, we fleshed out those scenes entirely. So instead of just an outline, we wrote in all the dialogue, added details about props, and yeah, just kind of made it an actual script rather than just an outline. So you start with 3-act structure, timeline, scene outline, script. This was just our process. This is what has worked for us. When I wrote the script for Booyah 3 years ago, I didn't outline at all. I literally went straight into just writing the script. It worked for me for the most part. But yeah, this time around, I think having that structure has been really nice. I think breaking things down into smaller steps will always be beneficial. So we finished the rough draft and then came revisions. And that's currently where we're at. This video is already getting kind of long, so I figured I would just split it up into 2 parts. So yeah, part 2 is just gonna kind of go over the revisions and finalizing your script, and then just kind of where to go from there. I also realized I didn't talk about our story at all in this video. So I'll definitely do that in the next one. Sorry about that, but something for you to stay tuned for. But until then, I will see you guys in the next one.